Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and today we're making a video from the 888 snap tables. I'm not sure exactly what number it would be. Let me just check. I've certainly made plenty of these, and it is number 34. For those of you who pay attention to my poker status, which probably won't be many of you, but for those of you that do, you'll be thinking to yourself, oh, why is this guy playing on 888? He's been playing on Sky a lot lately. Two reasons. First reason, it's hard to make videos on Sky because the software really sucks quite badly. When I've got that running, the software running, the client open, when I've got Camtasia running, it all just tilts me a little bit. It's just things start overheating, things start going a bit wonky, and it's just not the best thing for making videos. So I haven't been making videos for a while because of that. I made one video on Sky before that. It was like a month since I last made like a video of my playing poker. And that's not really what I want to do. I like to make videos much more frequently than that. So we popped a little bit of money on 888 to make some videos. Who knows, you might stumble across me from now and again on there still. I like to keep my options open. Certainly in terms of game quality, there's nothing better than Sky. But software quality, volume, all those kind of things do come into it too. And yeah, I think it's time I spread my bankroll back out again. I gave myself some options. I can't be the sort of person who gets bored easily, so moving around from site to site doesn't really bother me too much. I'm not fussed about missing out on a little bit of rewards here and there because I just want to enjoy what I'm doing. And sometimes I just feel like playing a little bit of 888. Sometimes I feel like playing a little bit of Unibet. Sometimes I feel like playing some Sky. So yeah, we're on Sky just now. We might be on. Sorry, we're on Unibet. Quick, I'll get it right in a minute. We're on 888 right now. That's not to say we're going to be on 888 the next time we make a video. I don't think we need to 3-bet the Ace-5 suited here. Things I want to talk about in this video is some of the things I've been feeling I've been doing a little bit wrong lately because I've been trying to put some volume in a Sky 6 tabling. And it's going to be nice just to two tables this snap game for a little bit because I feel like I've kind of become rushed in everything that I'm doing when I'm playing. We're going to raise this C-bet. We have the cut shot. So it's a good time to raise. I like raising cut shots. We also have the backdoor flush draw. We have the ace. It's going to be hard for him to just 3-betters all the time unless he just is in the business of flopping big draws or sets and things. And now I think with this turn, I'm just going to pretty much just empty the clip. I'm probably just going to... Yeah, I think I'll bomb this turn more than that actually. Try and get him to put some money in on the turn, then make him fold the river. I'm going to hope he doesn't check raises here. That would make me a little bit sad. We'll starting to count out in our heads, get our shoes and socks off, start counting our fingers and toes. Seeing exactly where we're at, but he does just fold, and yeah, that worked out nicely for us. So most of you watching this will be aware of who I am now. For those of you who aren't aware of who I am, please check out the rest of my channel. I'm a very frequent video maker and my work is usually aimed at recreational players, beginners, losing players. If you are watching this video as an already winning player, you're not going to get too much from it because I do try and keep things as basic as possible in my video. I don't go into too much in-depth stuff because that's the kind of thing that people can get from much better video makers than me. I firmly believe that there are enough videos being made aimed at layman players, people who just want to hear people spell it out in simple terms and not overcomplicate matters. So my videos are usually very, very simplified. They are aimed, as I said, they're very much at inexperienced players, losing players, people who don't want to have poker be some major academic pursuit for them, but at the same time wouldn't mind getting a little bit better. So there we are. If you don't fit that profile, I wouldn't blame you if you just turn the video off right now, because it really isn't going to be for you. So we've been re-raced here. I'm not one for calling re-races out of position usually, but we're getting such a good price. We're getting like over 2-1 on the call, and we're getting just a good like implied odds to hit our set. So that's what we'll try and do. We missed, so that'll be the end of that little adventure. EC bet's quite small. That's pretty standard these days. If any of you guys sometimes see these re-raise pots and then people like bet smaller on the flop than they bet pre-flop and think, oh, the guy's weak, he can't handle a raise. Just be careful when you're doing that, because lots of really good players now are actually making their continuation bets on the flops. On flops smaller than their re-raise pre-flop. So just be very careful that you're not misreading the bet sizes as a sign of weakness and perhaps bluffing too often in those spots or overplaying your hand. I was toying with the idea of having some music in the background of this video. I'd lined up Iron Maiden of the Beast, but I decided against it. So we've flopped not great here. We have 2 overcards with the ace and the king, and we have a backdoor straight draw. I'll explain what a backdoor straight draw is in a minute. We're going to call with the ace-5 suited. We are still going to continuation bet here. There's some good turn cards we can barrel. Obviously king, ace, maybe a jack and a 10. Not going to double barrel this 5. So now we're just going to give up with the ace king. Hopefully see a free card. Right, Etherton's min re-raise, so we can't do anything but call here and just hope to flop really well. We don't flop really well, so when Etherton continuation bets, we're just going to let it go, and we're going to let the ace king go here. His most likely hand he has is a queen. I guess he can have some draws that are just now bluffing, but we can't continue with our ace king, so we just let it go. So this Amamuprina, the heck is called? Amamuprina. He's limped into us on the small blind. We're not going to allow that. We're going to make it 4x. Hope to get some pre-flop value and hopefully go on to make a pair post up and extract some post-flop value. And we're going to call here with the jack 10 suited and hope to flop well, which we do. It's very tempting for players to just lead out here into the pre-flop raiser. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. We're not going to... in fact, we are. We're going to treat this min bet like he's checked, and we're just going to make a standard continuation bet. And we're not going to... Lots of players here will be tempted to see they've got top pair and a flush draw, and they'll be tempted to lead into the pre-flop raiser. I actually think I prefer to check raise here in this spot. It gives him a chance to continuation bet, and then reduce his complete air and sometimes fold. It also gives us a chance to make him fold. Some hands would like him to fold here, rather than just like call with, if we let into him. When Amaprima calls our continuation bet, we're just going to slow down again. What do I think full contact's got here? I think he's probably got a better hand than us right now. He could have some draws, I guess. I think he's going to fold 8x, pocket 9s, pocket 7s, those types of hands to our check raise. So I think we're probably behind here. I'm going to check, consider check raising all in, just to maybe get him to bet with a better hand like king 10 or ace 10 or something, and then we can just hopefully shove it and make him fold. And right now he's checked back. I think we're just going to have to lose this pot most of the time. We can't really check call a bet on the river unless he bets really small. We can't really bet for value. So I think we're just going to have to lose this pot. Well, it looks like we're going to win this pot. We'll look at what he had in just a moment. We're going to re-raise our king queen here for value. wonder what he had then, because I got that completely wrong. Unless he must just have called me with some kind of pair, I guess, and for some reason the hand isn't coming up. And I don't know why. So we can't look at what he had at the minute, I'm afraid. We've been 4-bet here. King Queen suited. It's too strong to fold, so we're just going to call and we're going to try and make some kind of hand. It's just too strong to fold at this point. If we're going to 3-bet fold a hand as strong as King Queen suited, I think it's a pretty big mistake. He's made a huge C, but not a huge C-bet, but because it's a 4-bet pot, it's kind of all the bets are going to be big going on. He's not big in relation to the pot, but it's still, it's not the kind of bet we can really mess around with very much. If he's doing this with just ace king or something, we just have to let him take the pot down and let that go. Don't let that discourage you though from making these 3-bets. Yeah, it's frustrating when we get 4-bet, of course it is. But hands as strong as King Queen, even though they're crushed by like a 4-bet for value range, it's still it's not doing that bad. It's going to have some bluffs, you would imagine. It's going to have maybe sometimes some pocket tens, pocket jacks, hands that we do okay against. And then whenever it's if we just miss, we just get out of the way. So if you do find yourself making re-raises for value and you get 4-bet, it can sometimes put you in awkward spots, because if you're kind of in the middle of your value range and somebody 4-bets, all of a sudden you're not usually going to be in that super great shape. But I think these games are aggressive enough where we can defend the King Queen suited to a 4-bet. I'm going to re-raise our Ace King suited. This time we don't mind getting 4-bet because we can just shovel all the money in. We actually pick up a call. And I don't know anything about Prushka whatsoever. But it seems like a good spot to continuation bet. We've got top pair. They expect us to bet this board a lot of the time, so we can definitely sometimes call us some worse hands. Some pocket pairs and what have you that just don't want to fold to 1-bet. I'm going to let the King 6 suited go. Depends how I'm feeling. Sometimes I open King 6 suited from the cut-off, sometimes I don't. This is quite an interesting spot with 2 jacks. Do we want to re-raise here versus under the gun? If we re-raise versus under the gun, we can definitely get called by some worse hands for sure. I think most pocket pairs are going to call to set man. I think he's going to call with the kind of hands we called with before, like the King Queen suiteds, things like that, Ace Queen. So they would definitely get called by worse. If we get 4-bet, then we'd probably have to fold. So it's a question now: do I want to 3-bet, fold to a 4-bet, or do I want to just call? And because I don't know anything about Ockapoken, I'm just going to call. If I knew more about him, if he'd 4-bet me a couple of times before, or if I'd seen him call 3-bets out of position before, then I would definitely 3-bet. But I don't know anything about him whatsoever, so we'll start by being conservative. We probably just have the best hand here. There's a good chance he has a hand like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s that he's check calling with. Or maybe he's just going to check folds from like Ace Jack or 10-9 or something like that. But we need to bet our hand. If we just have 2 overcards, we don't just let him realise his equity for nothing. The ace is quite unfortunate for us because he can definitely have Ace King and play it in this exact same way. If he's value betting here, we don't beat anything. I think the question now is, do we want to go ahead and just like full on turn our hand into a bluff to try and make him fold an ace? So we're alive for the queen to take. So I think we will do just that. And he did just fold, so who knows, maybe he just had worse all the time there. We're going to bet our ace 4 here. We have the backdoor flush draw and we have the gut shot. We're just going to keep betting here because I think he can have like Jack X a lot of the time and just try to desperately cling on. If he turns up with a king, we can just make a note and then just not take this type of line against him again. But I'm trying to make him fold a king or, a king here, not a king or something, just a king. Um, we don't need to bluff here because we have a pair. It's going to be really unfortunate if he does turn up with a king here, but we're going to make a bet that's primarily aimed at making him fold a jack. And if he turns up with a king that he's played this way, like I say, we can just make a note and move on. And then we just never take this line against him again when he checks as a pre-flop raiser. But nope, he does fold. That's typically what you're going to see. There are some people there who will just turn up with like some random like raggy king there or some half decent king. But usually they're going to have something worse than a king that's just desperately tried to get to showdown. I'm going to try and juice this pot here against the button limper with a hand that should be the best hand. We flop some equity. It's not the best of boards for us to continuation bet on because a lot of his range for limp calling will have caught a piece of that board. But I'd rather bet myself, say $1.50 than check and have him bet $2.10 or something like that, and then have to call that. Spuddy Sharp isn't the type of player I'm going to want to try and bluff very often. Once our bet gets called, he hasn't got 100 big blinds. He's from the UK, which means he's more likely to suck than be good. And on this board texture, he's not going to get too many like bluffs through. So we took our shot at the pot. It didn't work out. I guess now we have to call because we're getting silly pot odds, and he doesn't have to have a flush. Unfortunately, we break out, so that'll be the end of that. Wow, he was pretty strong there. Normally I wouldn't 3-bet against Meow I'm a Cat because I have a read on him that he's quite a conservative player. But I mean, he doesn't always have to have a really strong hand here, so we can 3-bet, squeeze Romarinho RJ for value, and if Meow I'm a Cat shovels the rest of the money in, I guess we just like flick the money in and hope we're flipping or something. But we just pick up some dead money and happy days. If you do have any questions or anything you see in the video, please do respond below. I always try my best to respond to comments. Well, I always do respond to comments. So yeah, if you have any questions, please do ask. If you are looking at this video thinking, I like the cut of this guy's jib, I like how he's breaking things down, not too complicated, and you'd like to have a poker training session with me, my contact details can also be found below the video. So and we're delighted to hear from some of you guys. Start by checking and calling here with our ace-10. Probably going to check and call the turn and then decide on the river based on if he bets how big he makes it. And we're going to re-raise our king-jack here because his range on the button can be pretty wide, and he can call with worse. He can fold hands we don't mind him folding, hands that have decent equity against us, and we can just get to create a little bit of image too, which is always nice. I don't like calling this second barrel too much here. He's unlikely to be bluffing, but it's small enough that we can call, get to the river, and probably going to go check on that card. And we just hope he has something like King Queen or something like that he decided just to make another bet with. And we did pick up the pot. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be able to see what he had because good old Triple Eight, the buttons for finding these things out does working now. So he picked up a flush draw on the turn. So I think his play there is absolutely fine. He can take a free card on the turn if he wants, or he can use his equity to try and continue bluffing. Either of those are fine options. And I think his check back on the river is completely fine too. I guess he could just like try and pot it and just try and make me fold exactly the type of hand I had, like a weak ace, but trying to get people to fold top pair in these games in general, if he doesn't know me and doesn't know that I'm a regular that might be willing to fold there, trying to get people to fold top pair in these games generally isn't a strategy you want to be trying to be adopting. Ace-10, do I fire a second barrel here? If I fire 2, I guess I have to fire 3 to try and get him off like 5x, 4x. And I think I will. I think his range is weak enough where we can triple barrel here. We do have the gut shot to pull us out sometimes. So if we can hit 3 and make the best hand, sometimes we can hit ace or a 10. So all's not lost if he does call. And he just fold. A common leak that lots of players have that I've got to know over my time doing that, the mentoring that I do, they give up too easily. People just give up too easily when they get called. Even on boards where the texture changes, where they can genuinely expect to get some folds over people's hands people have caught with on the flop. They just tend to give up. They fall into the line of thinking that nobody ever folds in the micro stakes. So nobody bluffs. We can definitely bluff in the micro stakes. You've just got to pick your moments and try and choose boards where the texture changes and becomes scary for the kind of hands that call on the flop. I'm just going to lead out here. This isn't a spot typically I would lead out, and I think in a moment we'll talk about why I'm leading out here and why we'll probably pause in a moment and talk about this. Because I didn't lead out earlier with the Jack 10, which is a pretty strong holding. But we are leading out with the force here, and I think there's good reason for doing it. And I think it's something that I don't really want to discuss while I'm trying to discuss other hands too. That is a really ugly river. Just everything it's got there. Our 3-4s now are pretty much worthless. We just have to check and hope he just checks back a hand like pocket 10s, pocket jacks, something like that. I don't think you're going to bet with those hands if we check. That's just an unfortunate river. Definitely cost us some value because I think he probably did just have an overpair there. Do we want to set minus 7 big blinds? We're going to get in 2-1. If it's button versus small blind, maybe, but we're going to think about continuing in the hand. But we've raised the cut off. We just let the 8s go, and hopefully that Jack 10 hand will come up from over here as open before. For some reason that isn't coming up. That's quite irritating. So we'll have to discuss the Jack 10 hand from memory, I think, which is unfortunate. I wonder where that button's working, but this button doesn't make much sense, but whatever. Oops. It's me giving the game away that I'm drinking gassy pop with and trying to lose weight, but whatever. We are going to call this 3-race because it's just way too small. Unfortunately, we've completely bricked the flop, so this adventure's ending before it's begun. So, yep. These pocket 4s. If you remember the previous board, and it's still really bugging me why it won't come up. Where's it at? Is it anywhere to be found on my computer? Nope. Nowhere to be found, I'm afraid. So remember the other board, we've called a raise with Jack 10 of hearts and we flopped top pair and a flush draw. And I elected to go for a check raise there rather than a check call. Rather than a lead out, sorry. And I said there's reasons to lead out sometimes and other reasons not to lead out. This pot was, the last pot was multi-way in terms of there was like us, raiser, caller. But in like 3-way pots where someone's already checked, someone's likelihood of c-betting is reasonable. There's a reasonable chance that someone's going to c-bet. So we'd like to get a check raise in there. Well, we really like our equity. A pair of flush draws really strong on the flop. At least a lot of equity on the turn when it breaks out. So it's like on the flop you're really excited by it. Sometimes by the river or by the turn you can be really not excited. So I always kind of don't mind check raising those types of hands and just try to get them in on the flop. And if he's got an overpair with a coin flip, If he's just got like I don't know, who knows what he can have there. Sometimes he can have just like a draw where we're actually a favourite. Sometimes he can just put us on a draw and call us with worse. So lots of ways where we can like check raise and do pretty well. But on this board, it's really wet board and it's heavily multi-way, and it's just way less likely someone's going to c-bet this board texture in a multi-way pot. If someone's general c-bet percentage is say 65%, their percentage for c-bet in this board is going to drop right down, and they're probably only going to c-bet when they've got the overpairs. No one's going to like, excuse me, sorry about that. No one's going to c-bet bluff here very often. That's all you would imagine. If they do, they're going to have like a pretty big draw. Maybe they have like king, queen, ace, king of clubs, something like that, and we get all the money anyway. But if we donk this flop like we did, we can get tons of value from all kinds of hands. And I don't know if we actually got to show them this guy or not. I can't remember. But we can just get called by pocket sevens, pocket fives, pocket threes, flush draws, pocket eights, nines, tens, loads of things that might not bet and certainly wouldn't call a check raise. We'll just call like a bet line. And my line here was just going to be bet jam, or bet really big on the river, depending on how the stack to pot ratio are looking on the river. So we did lead out and we did get called. And then the turn we just bomb it again because anyone who's called the flop's going to have either going to have a strong draw or a relatively strong hand by this point. Yeah, if someone's in there with pocket sevens, pocket eights, the nine might convince them to fold. But usually I expect for this just to go call, and then maybe sometimes fold the river if the draws miss or something. So I think we can just bet really big again on the turn, which is what we did, and then we got the awful river. And still didn't want to show. Oh yeah, it does show his hand in the end. And ace six. I mean, that's the kind of hand that absolutely, well, who knows, probably wouldn't have bet that flop. And we just miss a ton of value from exactly that type of hand. So don't go leading out all the time when you flop a set. But if you are in a multi-way pot and the board is particularly draw heavy like that one is, the kind of board where you don't expect people to see bet like, you can definitely consider leading out in those situations. It's called a donk bet, which is kind of derived from the term donkey. Only donkeys make them bets. That's not necessarily true. If you're doing them all the time, every time you flop a piece, then yeah, you're making a mistake and you're not doing it very well. But if you can like do it in spots like that, and then maybe do it in some spots where you've just got two overcards and a flush draw or something like that, like no showdown value but a very strong draw, then you can maybe think about doing it because you can just lead into the field and then just like shove over a raise, things like that. Just be careful when you're doing it. Try and have a good reason for doing it. Don't just do it because you have a hand that you quite like. If you think someone's going to c bet and you flop a strong hand, checking is usually the best play. In fact, it's always the best play, or nearly always the best play, if you think someone's going to c bet and you think you're ahead of their range. But if you think people aren't going to c bet and you've got a strong hand on a wet board, then betting's absolutely appropriate. I can't remember in this video if it had been 2.5x, not 3x in from the cutoff. Don't suppose it matters too much. We flop a good shot here. And we're definitely going to c bet for all the obvious reasons. We can make him fold some better hands if he's got any pocket pairs, anything like that. We can usually make him fold them. If he doesn't fold, we have the 10 for the straight. But he does fold. Full contact's a regular. I don't expect him to fold many pairs to me on this board if I c bet. So I'm actually just going to give up here because there's just no real opportunities for me to double barrel on a board like this. We're just going to, who knows? He might just let me show down. He might just have like Jack Queen here and just not bother betting. See lots of people doing that. ASI does have a little bit of showdown value. This is what we're not going to lead out. We've just been talking about this. There's a very good chance our opponent's going to c bet. He raised under the gun. It's a very dry board. It's only got one player to get through. Unfortunately, full contact at the nines. So this isn't a spot where we're going to c bet. But we are going to check raise. Just smallish, I think. Again, I don't know enough about him to know if he's just going to double barrel the turn if we call. Actually, I think I'm just going to call because the board's so dry and hopefully give him a chance to double barrel. Thinking that trying to get me off a hand that's like not a queen, like 2 8s or whatever, some kind of pocket pair lower than the queen. Can I just call again? I don't see much value in leading this river. I mean, yeah, it's going to suck if he checks back a hand like pocket tens or pocket nines or something like that. That might call a small bet, but what he can just to check and then just continue trying to represent some kind of middle pair. Unfortunately, he didn't go for it on the river. Never mind. Pretty dry board. We don't have as much showdown value this time though with our king queen, so we are going to make a c-bet. The difference here between c-bet in this board and not c-bet in the king 5 king board or whatever it was is that if we get called here we have a good chance of improving past a 10, past some kind of pocket pair, because we have 2 overcards. Before we had the ace 5, we only had 1 overcard to the board, and 2 overcards to the board is a decent amount of equity, especially when you lay it in with like a backdoor straight draw too. So that's definitely an okay c-bet. This check min raise, it looks fishy, doesn't it? It looks bullshitty, but whatever, we'll just let him take it. We've only got king high. Not like we can go on a hero call down mission there very often, because sometimes he'd be bluffing us. With the best hand there, if he's got like the nut flush draw, he's going to be bluffing us with the best hand. Please do remember, if you are watching the video and you are a more advanced player, please try to bear in mind if you do make any comments on the various places where the video will be posted that was a fold. I don't know why I folded the ace 4 there. It wasn't meant to be a fold, it's meant to be an open. Probably because I'm just making this point. Please don't bother wasting your time and mine by saying, oh, LOL, you suck. You're keeping, this is a really basic, shitty video, because that's exactly what it's intended to be. It's not intended to be a shit video, it's intended to be keeping things, explaining things in terms that hopefully make sense to less experienced players. Unfortunately, we've completely bricked out with our ace 2 suited, so we're not going to be trying to stick around here. We're just going to move on. It's the beauty of snap poker. When you don't make a hand, you don't have to sit around while people arse around finishing the pot off. You can just be out of here. Cheers, guys. I'm gone. Don't want to listen to you anymore. Don't want to watch your hand. I just want to move on and get dealt my next 2 cards. Limians, or Lemmy, whatever you want to call him, is a regular. I don't want to get into 3-bet bluffing too much in these videos, because the guys I'm trying to appeal to in these videos don't need to be doing an awful lot of 3-bet bluffing at this stage of their poker life. The first thing to do when you try to learn poker from scratch, the best way to start is by just learning to play solid hands and just play them in a pretty solid, basic fashion, and just learn the basics, and then we can start, when you get a bit better and a bit more experience, you can start popping some more advanced stuff in there, but you don't need to be doing the advanced stuff before you've done the basics. The amount of players that come my way that they've got really poor fundamentals, they haven't got an awful lot of the basics right yet in terms of the hands they choose to play, how they choose to play them pre-flop, and then they want to start talking about 3-betting and 4-betting before they've even really learned how to play the ranges correctly from each position, and just learn to be positionally aware and learn when to c-bet, when not to c-bet. There's an awful lot of basics people don't have a good grasp of, and then they want to start learning other stuff on top of really bad foundations, and it's just a bad plan for your overall poker life, your poker career. If you start trying to build your poker career on shaky foundations, when you do start hitting downswings and start hitting little bits of dips in your confidence, you ain't going to know where to start. You really aren't. So it might seem really quite boring, but it really is a sensible way to build up your experience, to build up your skills. It's layer on layer on layer. You wouldn't just build a house without digging some footings, would you? Consider me as that the footings for a house. I'm going to make a small bet here just to deny equity, protect our hand, call it what you will. With our 9-10, we probably have the best hand, but if they've got any overcards between the two, if one of them has two overcards, the other guy's a pocket pair, they've got like 10 outs they can hit on the turn to just suck out on me. I don't want people to just realise 10 outs of equity between them, especially if they're just on a line where they're planning on check folding and never really planning on bluffing should I show weakness. Unfortunately, that is not a particularly good flop for 2-9s, and we could bet here just to try and pick the pot up, just to like not have to check fold. It's a pretty basic instinct to want to do that, but people are just going to automatically bet worse hands here. We sometimes get just to go check check. We don't always just check fold in this spot. It could be, who knows, he maybe just bets 30 cents and we just call, or 60 cents and we just call. When he checks back, I think we probably just have the best hand. So now we're actually going to just start betting for value. I think if he does up his beat, he probably has his beat with a 10, or he's turned a set of 3, so he does just fold and happy days. We're just going to fold. Queen 10 suited is a really pretty hand, and it breaks my heart that we don't get to see a flop with it, but we're not going to start calling re-raises out of position with hands like King 10 suited. Sorry, Queen 10 suited is really pretty. It's one of my favourite hands, but you just have to have that little bit of discipline. He's representing quite a lot of strength. We've raised some earliest position. He's 3-bet from, I think it was the cut-off, or maybe we raised under the gun. He 3-bet some middle position. Whatever it wasn't a typical steal and re-steal spot. So his range is really quite strong there. We don't want to be calling 3-bets out of position with against strong ranges, with the kind of hand that if we flop a pair we might end up putting a little bit more money line than we really should do. I mean, we call there to try and flop straight draws and flush draws and things, but more often than not we just end up hitting some kind of shitty pair and just decide to call once because we think, we're going to make a mistake if we fold. Or it's just easy to, you call wanting one thing to happen, something different happens, and you end up still sticking around. It's not really what you want to be doing. This is where the discipline comes in, the solid foundations. We just fold it pre-flop, and it saves us a lot of like heartache further down the line. It's hard to win a big pot in that situation. It's not that hard to lose a medium-sized pot or bigger. So we're probably going to wind the video up in a minute or so. I think we'll just play around to our blinds. Really enjoyed making this video. I think I'm going to just keep making snap videos just because it's just most convenient. It's the easiest way to do it. You guys get to see plenty of hands. It's not as slow as regular tables. Yeah, we don't get to talk about exploiting like weak players as much and things like that, which is going to be a big part of our strategy as a micro stakes poker players, finding weaker players and finding good games to play and beat them. But in terms of actually making videos where they keep moving along nicely, it's definitely a much better format for that. So we end the video on a semi-interesting spot. We've been 3-bet by somebody on the button versus cut-off who doesn't have a full stack. So I'm going to presume that he's not a regular player, not a good player. If he's not a good player, he's way less likely to be bluffing here than a regular is. Against a regular, this is a much tougher spot. Against a good player, so against a weak player, a bad player, or somebody I presume is going to be a bad player, it's just way more likely he's just going to have a very good hand. So I don't like him much, but we're just going to fold out Queen Ace and move on, because it's no good me preaching discipline to you guys and then actually not demonstrating discipline during the video. That'd be like kind of weird and pointless. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tone of it, which is certainly aimed more at recreational players and players who aren't super advanced. If you do want to watch more videos, please do check out the rest of them on the channel. There's tons of them out there. Not all of them are the same. There's some different ones, some different topics discussed in them. So yeah, please do check them out. And if you have enjoyed what you've seen and you'd like to talk to me about maybe taking some sessions with me, please do get in touch via my website, via Skype. There's loads of ways to get in touch with me via the forums, wherever you see this posted. There's tons of ways. I hope to hear from some of you soon. If not, I still hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll be here again soon with another one. Bye bye for now and take care.